All right, man, Mr. Damon Wilson. The people have been talking about our last interview, and we made it happen, and we are back for another one. How have you been? What have you been up to? What's been the feedback, since the last time we talked?
I'm good. I'm good. I hope you're well also. A lot of positive feedback. I posted on my Instagram and Facebook and Twitter that we were going to do another pod on Friday the 12th, and I would post when it's going to air. There'd be some rollouts though. And I got a lot of positive. A few thousand people said, "I can't wait. You put a lot of light in our lives. You shed light. It's wonderful to hear." This was what I got the most. It's refreshing to hear a person who was in the entertainment industry at the top of his game
Mm.
and walked away without having to kowtow to any powers that be.
I mean, people were saying I got to see all kind of things that came from it. Did you get any like backlash? Did you feel any like pushback on some of the things that you were saying?
I got one. I got one pushback from a young lady, and sometimes people hear what they want to hear, especially if it hits a nerve.
Right.
And I'm here. Somebody said, "Well, what's the man doing podcasts for?" He's a minister. I'm here to, in my own inimitable way, to educate and equip. I'm not here to start a following. I'm not here to tell a man or a woman what they should or what they shouldn't do. Those days for me are over. I raised 6 kids, and they're all adults and they're all successful. And I have 4 daughters, and so I would never presume to tell a woman what she can do. What I did say, and she was very gracious in her pushback, she said, "No harm, but I don't think you need to tell women what they need in their lives. You're doing more harm than good. And I'm glad that your generation has almost died out."
Wow.
Yeah, so I said, "Well, obviously this is a young lady from this generation. I never told a woman what they should do or what they needed. I said I tire of hearing women say, 'I don't need a man.' Now,
Right.
you have a lot of women that come from single family homes that the mother told her, 'You don't really need a man. You get a good education, a college degree, and you can get your own house, your own car, and you don't have to rely on a man.'" And that's very true. But the ulterior motive behind that was the disparity of the genders. They want to break up the genders.
Mm.
They want to do away with this modern feminist movement wants to do away with the patriarchal hierarchy. And what they don't realize is that the people that are running the world is patriarchal. Those men in the Bilderberg thing that meet periodically in Switzerland, there are no women there unless they're on the arm of a man. Show me one country where women run it successfully. It doesn't exist. So you're being tricked, you're being fooled. So I wouldn't tell a woman, I said, "You might not need a man, but your children do." And I have statistics to corroborate that. In the prison institutions, over 60% of the people in those institutions come from single family homes. Suicide for Black men is higher than any other ethnic group. Then they come from single family homes. I could go on and on and on. There's many statistics that you could quote. So,
There's got to be exceptions though too, right?
well, I'm
I
not talking about the exception. I don't talk to the exception. I talk to the rule. If you went to college, you know what a generalization is.
I didn't go to college, but I understand.
Well, that's the problem right there.
okay.
I'm talking to the many, not the few. There are exceptions to everything. The exception proves the rule and vice versa. So
Well,
I'm not telling.
I,
I didn't say to women what you need. You
Hmm.
might not need a man, but if you have kids, your children do.
I can attest to that.
That's what I said. And that's the only pushback I got. And as I said, she was very graceful in the way she uh, she came at me, and I said, "Okay." I gave her some words of advice and wisdom.
What I would imagine that a lot of women, and unfortunately, because you've been with your wife for how many years now?
On May 3rd, 50 years.
so when you hear,
Successful, 6 kids successful. So that's this is where
when
I'm
you,
coming from. I look at these people been married 3 years divorced, 5 years divorced. In the Hollywood community, it's a miracle when you have couples that have been married for 20 years, and you do have them. I'm talking about in Black Hollywood. But for the most part, society today, I'm not happy. It's not the job of a man to make a woman happy. That's not my job is to protect, provide, and to be there for our children. Not to make you happy. You can make yourself happy. What is that happy? Happy is momentary.
Well, it's yeah.
You
yeah,
give a woman roses, she's happy. You give her diamonds, she's happy. But then that wears away, and now you got to keep doing it. Keep doing it. I suggest that you make yourself happy. You find the things inside of you that make you happy. It could be molding clay, it could be painting, could be playing a sport, but not just sitting there waiting for a man to make you happy. That's ridiculous. It's ludicrous.
I think typically that's, that's in my generation. It seems that a lot of women do kind of equate maybe sometimes what a man can give them, what he can, that's associated to how she feels. Gift giving, what can he get me, a Birkin bag? It's kind of like on a maybe lower vibrational of the exchange of a relationship. But, I think what,
Let me say something to you about Birkin bags, John.
yeah,
And I like you. You're younger than my youngest. Bags, designer bags. All you're doing is making Europeans wealthier. My love for you is not in a bag or in a case. When a man has proven himself through the years that he's there, that he's the rock, that the family is progressing and the children are being successful, then Birkin bags fall by the wayside. There's a lot of women walking around there with Gucci bags and all these designer bags, and they don't have the money in the bag that the bag cost. So that's not if you marry if you hook yourself up to a wagon with a superficial individual, then yeah, you better buy some Birkin bags and some other nonsense like that, because that's the play of the day. Wealthy
right,
people, I'm going to say this and use this as a roll in, a roll out, a roll over. Wealthy people don't dress in designer clothes. They don't drive fancy cars. They don't wear extravagant jewelry. These young rap guys out here with $1 million around their neck and on their arm of diamonds, and some of them get shot and killed for them. Wealthy
right.
people don't do that. Oh, they do not.
but see, can I push back? I'm gonna push back on that a tad bit because I don't like that we can't be able to express ourselves as black people.
I didn't say that.
Okay, I'm just
I
Okay,
made a statement. Words have meanings, John. I repeat, because people hear what they want to hear
yeah,
to make a story up in their minds. I said wealthy people don't do that. That's what I said. If you look at the statistics on black people and spending in America every year, we outspend everybody. Trillions of dollars we spend on cosmetics, on designer clothes, on all kinds of nonsense that we really don't need. I don't understand, with all the money in the black community, over $1 trillion we spend every year. Why don't we open our own beauty shops in the inner city, nail parlors in the inner city, uh, food stores in the inner city? We complain about Asians coming out in our community, and if they think one of our children stole something, like that girl had some orange juice, they shoot them. Why aren't we opening this in our community with all the money that we spend every year?
it's
Why aren't we
easier.
hiring? Hold it, let me finish the
Uh,
statement. Why aren't we hiring young boys in the community as security guards to guard all of these businesses that we could start in our community and employ our own people? I live in a community where they have neighborhood watch. And everybody in that neighborhood, there's $1 million houses over here, $1 million houses over here, $500,000 over here. I live on the top of a mountain.
mm,
And when you enter into this area that I live in, you see the sign says neighborhood watch, and it's got the guy in the cloak. I used to come out early in the morning to go to my mailbox, which is across the street from my house, and the neighborhood watch guy in the car would be parked right there at the corner. And when I'd walk out, he'd flash his lights and I'd wave at him. We could do the same thing. but we don't because we want to spend on cosmetics. I never said to you or anybody listening that you couldn't do that. I'm saying it's not the smartest thing to do.
And all I was laying out is just the fact that I think we do that to ourselves where it's like, okay, Bill Gates, he doesn't wear chains, or excuse me, yeah, Bill Gates, he doesn't wear chains and all that stuff. But
We don't need names.
That's
Wealthy
his.
people don't do that.
well, I'm just saying we should be able to still have our own identity of how we decide to use our wealth or flaunt it. But I also think that shows that there's a lack of something that we feel is missing inside, which is why we accumulate these things because we never had it in the past. So I think there's like, a fair vantage point of understanding why we spend.
No, it's not. It is simply not. If we spend trillions of dollars a year on cosmetics and designer nonsense, why are our communities raggedy? Why? Why do we have to go into a Hispanic bodega or an Asian bodega to buy bread and whatever else?
I agree. I agree.
Take a black person, go into a totally Asian community and open up a store. I guarantee you, you won't be in business longer than a month. They will not do business with you. But we keep making them wealthy and they keep shooting our kids.
Because we don't value each other.
That's what Minister Society started off as.
Yeah.
Why are you watching me? They do it. Let's go to the next question. You can wear whatever you want to wear. You can take your money like these kids do, holding it like it's a phone, and throw it out of the window. You can go down to the strip club and get 5,000 ones and throw them up there. Women scantily clad. You can do anything you want to do, and the Lord will allow you to do it. We're not robots. We're not angels. We're agents of free will.
Right.
Do you want to do stupid stuff? The Lord's not going to stop you. All of these women having babies out of wedlock, and then they complain about the husband. He's a deadbeat. He's no good. But wait a second. I saw this lady talking to somebody on one of the podcasts. I can't remember which one it was. And he said, "Well, are you married?" And she said, "No, I was married." Well, what happened? My husband was a cheater. My husband was a deadbeat. My boyfriend was a cheater. My boyfriend was a deadbeat. Has he supported the child? No, because he's in jail. So let me see if I got this right. You had a baby. He asked her first, "Did you go to college?" She said, "No." "Did your children's father go to college?" "No." So let me see if I got this right. You married an uneducated, deadbeat jailbird. That's what you had a child with. There's no accountability for that on most of their parts because they say, "Well, I don't need a man." This is on a higher echelon. I got a college degree. I don't need a man. Down here, the government is my baby daddy. They'll give me what I need. They'll give me food stamps. They'll give me that wicker stuff. As long as when they come to my house and check on me and they don't tell me when, as long as they don't see any semblance of a man in that house, the government is my baby daddy. That's where we are now today, John.
Well, I'm glad we got to touch on that because I did want you to. I did want you to get it. I did want to give you a chance to be able to kind of express what you were trying to, come across in the last interview.
No sweat. I mean, I understand. A lot of women, if they're triggered, or you hit that nerve, you can say truth, 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 truth. They're going to come at you. You don't need to be telling women what they need. I didn't. I said you might not need a man, but your children do.
I wanted to get you back because there's been so much going on in terms of the industry.
You know what's going on.
It's been a lot going on since the last time we talked.
All the podcasts are talking about this thing with this man. I don't know this man. I don't swim in that pond, but it's everywhere. It's everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. But what I see is somebody who's doing something that's been doing it for over 30 years. And all of a sudden now, this is what I know, okay? I only speak on what I know. I don't like that term gatekeepers. I like overseers. Overseers on the plantation had a certain amount of power that they could wield that the master, the owner of the plantation, gave them. And many of the slaves purportedly feared the overseers more than they did master. because they wanted to maintain and keep their status. Listen to what I'm saying and look at what's happening. They wanted to keep and maintain their status. And as long as the slaves were making that money when they weighed that cotton and whatever crop they had, the overseer's position was solid. So he cracked the whip to make sure that them slaves busted their butt.
You're choosing not to say the person's name, right?
I don't want to. You can say whatever name you want.
Because I just want to make sure the viewers, at least I'm understanding that you're talking about Diddy, and you're talking about what went down. I think like relatively maybe about a month ago, his house got raided, and that would open up a can of worms. You're seeing different headlines come out. You're hearing about freak off parties, which I want to ask you about. Were those things existing in your time coming up? But I mean, just seeing that.
I say one thing about that last part that you asked me.
Okay.
Fatty Arbuckle. That name ring a bell?
Nah.
Fatty Arbuckle was in the silent movies. He was a superstar in silent films. And his career was lost because he was look at you Googling because you're young. He was at a freak party, which has been going on since Hollywood existed. This is nothing new. It might be new to just your generation. This ain't nothing new. The game doesn't change, John, only the players. And this generation doesn't understand that because they don't know what happened before. If you don't know your history, you're going to repeat the same dumb things in the future. Fatty Arbuckle was a superstar in silent films. He was at a freak party, which all the big studios used to throw. And he was accused of inserting a bottle in a woman. And it killed his career. His career became flat as 3-day-old beer. What I know about the overseers, I don't want to use that gatekeeper nonsense. That's a modern term. Is that as long as they're producing, they're good. No matter what they do, no matter how vile it is, the gatekeepers will make it go away. Now, what I know, because I went to the top in my industry, as long as you are making money for the powers that be, you can do anything short of somebody watching you murder somebody. The moment you stop making the money for them, you have no intrinsic value. And I knew that, and that's what I used in the business of show. So I'm not talking about this young man. I don't know him. I don't swim in that pond. It's not necessary for me to bring all these people in, how he took advantage of. They wanted something. He wanted something. If you go to a shore in the Caribbean or even here, and you see a sign that says shark sightings, no recreational swimming. You see surfers out there. You see people swimming out there. They go in the water and come out. Nothing might not happen. But then they go in that water and a shark will get them, and that's the end of that. So those waters that these people are swimming in are shark infested. In the motion picture industry, in the television industry, and in the recording industry. Those waters are shark infested. You take a chance to go in there, you might come out unscathed, you might not come out.
Yeah. Do you think
so what they're talking about this young man is doing has been going on since silent film. Do your research, son. After you hang up, say, that old dude was right again. God dang. Because I'm from that era. I know the history of the industry. So if you want to go swim in those waters, you got to know, you got to be prepared. Look, there people say DeMond was hard on John. He was hard on. Look, my hardness came from the discipline of my mother and father. When I was 8 years old to 18, I was in scouting. When I was 11, Cub Scouts, where you learn handcrafts, 8 to 11. At 11, I joined the Boy Scouts of America. That was before homosexuals were raping little boys. This was in the 50s. I was sleeping on the ground in 20-degree weather, putting up a tent, learning how to cook my food and being a man, how to be a man, how to start a fire with a flint. And then I went into the military. So when I went to basic training, it was like summer camp for me. And then I was in the middle of a war. So I'm not a B male. I'm not a beta male. I talk to my sons the way I talked to you when they were 5, 6 years old. My son is a monster. That boy's a monster. He's got respect. He has understanding. He's married. And he's married to a woman of another persuasion, but that's okay because he's an alpha. He is in at the helm. I don't want to say in charge. See, there they go. The people
I
that
mean,
are
you.
running this world. Listen, let me say this.
Mhm.
You cannot expect a fox to do anything but what's in his DNA. A lion, you can give him some vegetables. He don't want vegetables. He doesn't want meat that you cooked like they do in zoos. He wants to take the animal down. He wants to taste the blood. You ever see a lion after a kill? His whole face is covered in blood. He's a beast. You can't go around a beast and not get slayed. The thing that this young man is going through could be they have a ritual, an embarrassment ritual, a shaming ritual.
Right, but let me ask you this, because with that statement, you said this could be a shaming ritual. Does that mean the person's in on it as well as like this is part of my initiation? Because I saw Diddy in Miami and he was smiling as if everything was okay.
I don't know if this young man, I saw him on in a magazine, and I don't want to talk about him, but I saw him on a magazine wearing some pretty zesty clothes. So that said to me, he's probably part of that whole thing. And when you're part of that whole thing, you have to do what you're told. You know, you see a whole lot of A-listers that aren't going to say what I say because they have made a commitment to whatever they make that commitment to. And as long as they stay in that commitment, as long as they don't drop their books and lose their lessons, as long as they don't talk out of school, as long as they're still making money for the powers that be, they're okay. So they're not going to come out and start rocking the boat.
Yeah.
So that's why you have these big celebrities that are going to, they come out against a party. They'll come out for the Democratic or the Republican Party. I don't, I don't know this young man, but that I'm saying that's a possibility of what it could be because he hasn't been blackballed. He's doing a film.
Right.
He has worth. They can monetize him. If you got worth, they'll say, okay, man, all right, now come on, make us some money.
Right. Because they did that with R. Kelly. They stopped, people start blackballing his on streaming platforms.
So
I
that was
don't.
a thing about it.
I'm not going to go into that. But
Okay.
here's the thing that I wanted to share, and this is for people that have made a name for themselves, entities. Not if you're doing a feature film or a B-list film and you just coming on, then you shut your mouth and you accept what they give you. But if you are a name personality in the recording industry, in the motion picture industry, or in television, and they bring you a contract, and you look at that contract, you don't sign at the bottom line until you're happy or satisfied with what they're going to offer you. You don't do the project and then come on the media and complain about you didn't get enough money for it. That's tantamount to a person going into a restaurant, herein is logic, ordering a food, a menu off the menu, an entree, eating the entire plate of food, then calling the waitress over and saying, I want my money back. I didn't like this. That's bass backwards. That's putting the wagon in front of the horse. You don't do that.
With that being
Now you
said,
say, well, what about you when you was in Hollywood? When I was in Hollywood and they would bring me a contract, I would look at it and I would say, I can't sign that. Well, if you want to go on, you have to sign it. Well, then we're not going on. And I get up and wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. What are you asking for? Here's my bottom line. That's it. I'm not going to negotiate that. This is what I feel that I'm worth for this project. Adam Sandler just contacted my PR agent a few days ago, and he is doing a film, and he wants to celebrate comedians in the entertainment industry, and they wanted to use a clip of Red and I. And Mark said to me, "What do you want for it, Damon?" And I said, "5K." So they came back and they said, "Now I did that because I knew they were only going to use a few seconds of this clip of Red and I, but I went high, and what they settled on, I could live with that." So you don't go in a restaurant. If you take your big husky butt in a restaurant and eat everything you ordered, then say, I didn't like it, I want my money back. No.
Let me ask you this though, because hearing you say that, I think about Taraji P. I'm definitely hearing you loud and clear. I'm just thinking about Taraji P. Henson, Monique. We seen them come out and be like, "Hey, these things weren't fair." Are you saying that you don't agree with them coming out after doing the project?
I didn't say anything other than what I said, John. Don't put words in my mouth because you have people out there that want to hear what they want to hear. And as I said before, I reiterate, if you trigger them, if you hit a nerve, they're going to not like what you said. So I'm going to say it again for the hearing impaired and for the people that are a little slower than others. And they hand you a contract. This is for entities, this is for people that have made a name for themselves only, not for people that are trying to come up in the industry. And whatever industry that is, whatever branch of it, recording industry, motion picture, whatever. You got people when they go to recording, young people that come out and a recording studio wants to record them. They're just so elated and so happy. I got a contract with the studio. They don't care about the contract. They're not even reading the contract. They just put me on because I'm gonna be famous. Yeah, you're gonna be famous and broke. That's what you're gonna be. TLC, Babyface, LaFace. From what I understand, he robbed those girls. They had all those platinum albums and they were broke. Not my words, theirs. So when you get a contract, you look at it. You might have your agent there, you might have your lawyer there. I would say when I looked at something, I would call my agent, my manager, and my lawyer. And I say, I don't want to come to the studio, three-way call. In those days, you didn't have overseers and gatekeepers. You had the studio, the production company, which was above the line, and the artists. Do a conference call. I'm looking at you, you're looking at me. I can't do this for this amount of money. I'm not going to go back and forth with you. You know what my worth is. Also, my agent or lawyer would get on and say, we know what your budget is. And to pay Mr. Wilson, you have it in your budget. This is the bottom line. Call me. If not, good luck with the project, and I'm out. I'm not going to do it and then call a press conference and say, you didn't pay me what I was supposed to get. And then why they treat me like this? When you do that, you get. My daughter gave me this one coffee. If you made this black,
yeah,
that's a ball, yes?
You gotta hold it up a little bit more.
It's crystal.
Yep.
Make it black. What does it become?
A black ball. Oh.
Thank you. That's it. Stop right there. So you don't do that. I gave you a good analogy. If somebody has a brain, they'll understand what I just said.
Well, it seems like if you can't really speak out against the industry, else they will do that.
Yeah, the game doesn't change, John. Only the player. And people say, no, that was in the old days. No, it's not. I'm saying this is for people that have established themselves. You can say, no, I heard that thing. Finally, I watched that thing with Cat Williams. And he said, this guy likes to party, but you have to say no. That's all you got to do. And walk away. But people are so hungry for fame. If I don't do something in a year, I'll be forgotten. Does that answer that? Don't tell me I hear you.
No, it does. I mean, I'm listening at the same time. I think it's just you brought up Cat Williams, and of course, by the time we dropped our last interview, Cat came with that heat rock and got everyone talking. But people called them out for like, going at each other. Black entertainers going at each other. How did you take that? How did you react to the interview? Did you like it?
I'm not going to react to anything he does. I don't know the young man. He's very funny, very creative, almost a genius in terms of being a monologist. He doesn't tell jokes. He's a monologist, and he's brilliant. There's no doubt about it. That's why he's filling arenas. However, the person that you don't like, for whatever reason, and there's a myriad of them, John, is not your enemy. The person that doesn't like you is not your enemy. If a white person doesn't like you, that doesn't make him racist, makes him prejudiced against you. The person that you don't like and the person that doesn't like you is not your enemy. The person that's your enemy is power structure, the people that are running the entire show. I learned this in my first year in Hollywood. And I learned it in the business world because this is prevalent in the political arena. It's prevalent in the corporate world and in the entertainment industry. You can only do what they allow you to do, no more, because they run the show. And if you think you're going to do away with the patriarchal hierarchy, you're stupid, because all of them that run the show are male. And that's what they want. They want the gender separation. I have a friend that I still miss him to this day. He's been gone for 15 years. David was his first name. I'm not going to say his last name. His family's still around, his children. And David was one of the brightest young African American melanated men that I've ever met. When I used to go, he was from the DC area. When I'd go to DC, he would have the top young black business owners, and he would rent at the 5-star Asian a restaurant, a room where we would all meet, 15, sometimes 20 of us. And before David departed this world, he wrote a book called The Colorless Millennium. And it was even beyond the book that I wrote. It was way beyond that because people laughed at it and said, "What is he talking about?" Well, if you ever look at commercials now, you don't know what these people are. They could be Asian, they could be Hispanic, they could be white, they could be black.
Yeah.
It's indeed a colorless millennium. And I'm seeing more and more and more and more and more integrated couples, a black husband, white wife, and little mixed kids. I saw people go off on my friend John Amos because somebody put a picture up of his first wife who's white. And they're talking about I was wrong about James Evans and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Somebody said, "Well, why are these black men going to white women?" They're not.
Right.
They're not going to white women. A lot of black men are crossing over, especially successful melanated men are. And I say this without any rancor. A lot of those women, not all of them, there's exceptions to every rule that you pointed out, are easier on the eyes in terms of personality. I'm not talking about physical characteristics.
Mhm.
They don't want to contend. You know, you have black women who are educated, that have a PhD, have a master's, that are delusionally telling themselves that they are captains of industry. They can't get along with a guy, even if he's on their level financially and in terms of career, because they got that boss mentality. They're not wife material. I'm a boss. Okay. A boss don't want to be told what to do. A boss tell people what to do.
So when you see a guy like Jonathan Majors at the height of his career, be with a white woman,
Be
He
with a
wasn't at the height of his career. He was
yeah.
just starting to make noise.
well, just wherever he was at, the fact that he gravitated towards a white woman, you're not surprised by that because now he's with a black woman too.
Why would I care?
Well, I just think that because at the end of the day, you want to see a representation.
My youngest daughter is married to an Italian gentleman who reminds me of you because he's a computer technology nut. He makes a lot of money from it.
Mhm.
My both my sons have Caucasian wives, and I look sometimes at their school book, yearbook from kindergarten. I'm not making excuses now, through high school.
Mhm.
My kids grew up in Beverly Hills in private school. My kids grew up in Mission Viejo in private schools. And I look at their yearbook, maybe two. That's all they've ever been around. They grew up.
But how did that make you feel? How did that make you feel?
Let me finish so you can understand.
that?
When they started entering into puberty, uh, that's all they saw. And I told my wife, this is my fault. I raised them in a pseudo Republican white John Birch community. And my wife said, would you want to raise them up in the hood like you did? I said, that's where I got my education.
Mm.
But she wasn't going to have that. My wife was Philadelphia society girl. And that's all they saw. That's all they were around. So they gravitated toward that. Did I have a problem with it? No, I put them in that situation because the schools are better here and they have a better. I bought into that, and this is what they have. And they come to my house and they hug on us and they love us and I pray for them. I pray for my kids and their significant other. I had another daughter that was married to a Russian kid, and that didn't work out. So no, I don't have a problem with people crossing over. And I was giving you a little bit of an example of why that could be possible. In my case, it was because my kids were raised in that community. They didn't see. I'm going to tell you something, and it's going to sound weird, and I'm not bragging. It's just a fact.
Okay.
When we moved to Orange County, when my kids started entering into puberty, as I said before, I didn't want to raise them in that Hollywood environment. So we moved to Orange County. And in those days, Orange County was cow pastures and orange groves, the home of people like John Wayne. And at nighttime, at the dinner table, because we always had to sit at the table together if I was in town, and we would say, okay, around the table, what did you have today that you want to share? And somebody would say, I saw a black person today in a supermarket. We go, really? Did you speak to him? Yeah, I waved. He looked at me and waved back. That's how sparse it was where my kids grew up. And I'm not just saying that to try and be funny. It's a fact. We would do. My wife would say, honey, I saw a black guy today and he spoke to me. Usually the black people in those pseudo-conservative communities, they would look at you the same way white people did.
Right. They want to be the only ones in the room.
Yeah, don't speak to me. I ain't speak to you. So, but they knew who I was. So it didn't matter. I'd go in there loud, hey! I didn't care. That's the truth.
Right.
So that could be one of the reasons for it. And the other one, like I said, they're easier on the eye. I'm not talking about their physical characteristics. Because I know some beautiful women of color that
I was gonna say, yeah.
that you couldn't be around for 10 minutes. They don't get along with each other. How are you gonna get along with a man? I see them squabbling among each other. Look at these shows that they have on television. All these women are black and beautiful and successful. And they're going at it nail into. My mother said something to me. I remember as a little boy, I had my sister, my mother, and my cousin living in the same apartment. And we all had our rooms. And they would go at it in the morning. And I was a little kid. I was like 8, 9 years old. And I would say to my mother after they'd go to work, I'd say, Mom, what's going on here? My mother said, let me tell you something, boy. Always remember this. There's no house big enough for more than one woman to live under the same roof. She ain't never lied. And if you say she did, my mama did, I got to cut you. I got to cut you if you say something about my mom.
I mean, my question would be more so of,
Does that make any kind of sense to you?
I understand. Yes, it does. It clearly makes a lot of sense. Only because I get it, but I also have a level of empathy of understanding how we got to that condition. Like I'm well aware of those dynamics too.
You don't want to open that can. We don't have time.
So I was just more so, with the Jonathan Major situation, because that came up in that dynamic. Just when you see how Hollywood treated his situation, were you surprised? He was, a poster child at one point, and now he's like, in this like weird funk. Are you like, what's going on with that?
Who's in a weird funk?
I think Jonathan Majors is.
He's doing a movie. How weird a funk could he be in?
In terms of he's trying to get back into the limelight a bit better.
He's not trying to get back into anything. He had a bout. Lou Gossett went through something similar. Richard Pryor went through something similar in the day. It was a speed bump. They haven't blackballed him. If he was blackballed, he wouldn't be doing a film. So let's move away from him. He's not an example. He's like, this is not anything new.
A lot of people think this though. This is why I'm only asking the questions.
Because you're young and you don't have any reference for it. That's why. You can't go back 30 years and say, oh, I remember Lou Gossett was embroiled in this in the 80s. I remember Richard Pryor was embroiled when he shot his car. I remember all of those things. This is not anything new. The scripture says that. There's nothing new under the sun. Nothing.
So when it comes down to nothing new, beefs within black actors and entertainers, was that something that was happening in your day coming up?
Was what something?
Beefs amongst each other. Did y'all have a code about what you weren't going to do publicly?
What do you mean? Arguing?
Yeah, well, publicly. If I go out there.
Well, first of all, in my era, there wasn't but 5 black people out there. So who was I going to fight with? Who was I was going to fight with? Sammy Davis Jr., Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier, and Flip Wilson. That's what we were going to fight with?
Richard Pryor.
Like it is now. The landscape was not lined with black people. It was just a few. Clarence Williams III, who was my personal hero. He's gone now. Rest in peace. So there was only a dozen of us out there, and there was not going to be any squabbling with a dozen people. I mean, it wasn't that many of us.
So the only reason why I asked that because Cat was on Shannon Sharp, and people made a big deal about why is Cat going at these other black people, and I just would love to know, is that unnormal for that to happen, or was it happening with Richard Pryor and Cosby?
The person that you don't like is not your enemy. The person that doesn't like you is not your enemy. The power merchants are. I understand that the Jesuits controlled education and entertainment. That covers all of it. I understand that there's another element. People say Illuminati, people say the Rockefellers. These are the top echelon, all patriarchal. Those are the enemies. Those are the people that are handing down these gatekeepers, if you want to do that, or these overseers, if you want to do that. They're not. They're just. There was a movie called Sicario. I saw the first one. It was excellent. And one of the things that Brolin said, who was one of the leads in it, along with the brother from Spain, can't think of his name, brilliant actor. And he said, we allow these cartel leaders to do business because we can control that. But the moment they step outside of the jurisdiction that we've placed them in and think that they put themselves there, we'll take them down. Now, one of the things that the person that sent me to California said, Damon, they didn't put you up so they can't take you down. That's why these big stars aren't saying anything. They better not. They love their lavish lifestyles. They got to do what they're told to do. And there's all kinds of rituals that go with that. And I'm not going to go into that. I don't care about it. As I said before, I don't swim in that pond. But this man that's being drugged through the mud right now, this is nothing new. You had major studio producers that went through this and more, and they were much more in I don't like that word powerful, because power is perceived, and the media helps people and builds that stuff up. Everything that these overseers have can be taken away from them just like that. Just like that. Boom. You ain't got no money now. We gave it to you. You act like you did this for yourself. You didn't. Now we're going to take it all back. And we're going to drag you through the mud so that you won't be able to come back. You'll be able to do little insignificant projects. We're not going to stop that because your agent can get that for you. But the big show for you is over. You're no longer in the majors.
My question for all of that being said is, what's the blame when it comes to the kid Jonathan Majors? Is it because he was with a white woman? Like what did he do wrong from your vantage point?
I'm going to say it again because you're a little thick today. Maybe you didn't get enough sleep last night. And I say that respectfully. Shaming ritual Remember the kid in school you did?
You said Diddy. You said Diddy had the same ritual. So I want to. I'm asking about Jonathan Major's situation.
I'm gonna explain it to you. A shaming ritual means they will play on whatever they can. They find an Achilles tendon, an Achilles heel, and that's what they prey on. I understand that this person is being drugged through the mud right now has video on everybody. I understand gangs do that. You got to smoke an average Joe. And in the mafia, you got to do that. It's called making your bones. So they find, I understand that Freemasons do the same thing. They got to have something here. My dad was a Freemason. He told me about men laying in a coffin naked, jacking off, and telling their secrets. They got to have something on you. You look at these politicians. This guy read a thing the other day for people incarcerated, for people busted on drugs, for people, and he named all of these things. And he said, now, who is this? NBA, NFL, or the entertainment industry? And everybody got it wrong. It was a political agenda, all of those people. They all got stuff on each other.
That sounds like a gang to me.
The game never changes, only the players. Now you got homework to do with all the things I threw at you. Go ahead.
I know I'm over here trying to write my notes down.
Does
But
that
I
cover
def-
that person enough for you?
yeah,
It could
I
be
just
anything. It could be anything. Okay, I'll tell you what happened. In 1984, 85, I did a meeting for a white organization in Colorado. And when I got there, the bishop picked me up at the airport, and he said, "Damon, we've been wanting to get you here for a long time, but you're always booked." He said, "We wanted to bring Roosevelt Greer in here." Now this was in the mid late '80s, but my people said no because he has a white wife. And then he asked me, "Is your wife Caucasian?" And I said, well, "It doesn't matter because my wife doesn't travel with me. We have 4 children." He said, "I couldn't bring Roosevelt in here because his wife at the time, rest her soul, is white." So that if they put you through a shaming ritual, they just choose your weakest point. When you get sick, it usually attacks the weakest part of your body, doesn't it? I'm talking physical now.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. That answer your question? It wouldn't have mattered if they had pictures of him with a buffalo. It's just an area that they could exploit to make him fall in line. He might have said something. I don't know the man. I don't swim in that pool.
I mean, we touched on a lot.
You said that sounds like a gang.
I did say that.
That's the business that they're in, that I was in, that we're in. That's the business. The game doesn't change, only the players. We didn't have, to answer your question before, we didn't have overseers over us. You had the studio, the production company that was offering you a contract, executive producer, cameraman, all the above the line people. When they were getting ready to do a project, all those people assembled together and they'd have you come in and talk to the execs and the producers. And I said, okay, this is all fine. Now, this guy's an excellent director. I've worked with him before. Persky, I've worked with him before. Warren, I've worked with him before. Stan Lathan, I've worked with him before. He did 4 or 5 episodes on Sanford and Son. His daughter's very successful right now. I said, okay, this is good. These are all good people. This is a good production company. And the cast, from what you showed me, is wonderful. It should be successful. But now let's talk bottom line here. You done showed me and talked to me about everything except what you're going to pay me. Let me see the contract.
Mm.
Now, when I read the contract, I'll get back to you. When I got back to them, I was with my lawyer, my accountant, and my manager. Each one had something to say to the powers that be over the production. Is that clear?
It's very clear. Did you get hit with people saying you were difficult to work with because you were moving on those standards?
Because I was making money for them, man. I was the schnit. Red and I were the schnit. Are you kidding? I just told you, John, I love you, man, because you're a baby boy to me. I love you, man. I'm importing stuff to you. I'm talking to you like I'm talking to the audience. When they can make money with you, you can dump on the floor. They said, don't worry about it, Demond. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of that. The prop guy, Johnny, come over here. Clean that dookie up there, Mr. Wilson. He couldn't make it to the bathroom. Okay, Demond, what do you need? You need anything, buddy? You ready? You ready for the show? You ready? You got it going? You in Red ready? You talked to Red yet? I got into a tiff with a girlfriend that I had for about 6, 7 months, and her uncle was very famous. And we got into it on New Year's Eve. And I had bought her a bunch of dresses from Holly's Harp on Sunset Boulevard. In those days, those were dresses that the big movie stars used to wear with the flowers and the pattern and everything. And I came home, it was New Year's Eve, and I said, I just want to relax. We moved into a penthouse apartment over Kawanga. I said, I just want to relax and bring the New Year's in with my lady. And she had laid my tuxedo out on the bed and said, no, we're going out. I said, no, I'm not. I had a pocket full of money. I had a magnum of champagne. I had about 5 doobies rolled. I said, I just want to spend New Year's Eve with my woman. And she insisted on going out. And I said, okay, fine, don't come back. She still had an apartment. She would stay with me most of the time. And she went in my bathroom and got on the phone and started calling a date. And I heard it, and I kicked the door open because she locked it and ripped the phone off the wall. And a fight ensued. And because I was the alpha wolf, I went and lied down and went to sleep. And I woke up seeing stars. And she had hit me with a pair of $700 shoes that I had bought her the previous day, and the blood was like gushing out of my. I still have the marks that were gushing out like that. And then she took the keys to my Cadillac Eldorado, fire mist green with a snow white top. The only thing that the wheels that were any other color than white was what rolled on the ground, and threw them out into the bushes. It was a cold New Year's rainy night. Now I had filled up a towel. That's how I was bleeding. And I went down and I found the keys and I drove myself to St. Joseph. And I was getting weak because I'd lost a lot of blood. And they clamped me up and they said, is there anybody you want me to call? I said, yes. Call my executive producer, Buddy Yorkin. And they called Bud. And Bud said, don't have no hack doctor touch him. Clamp it, stop the blood. I'm going to take care of it. So I'm laying there on a slab with my eye clamped. 2 hours later, this guy comes in. He was very upset in a tuxedo. He was in San Francisco at a New Year's Eve party. Buddy flew him in so that I wouldn't have a whole lot of, I don't know if you could see it. Can you see that?
Yeah, it's like a mark.
That's plastic surgery. Now, if I hadn't had plastic surgery, you're wondering why I don't got a whole lot of gray hair. I know you're just looking at it. I said, you got
I was like, not a bad hairline.
somebody said, you dye your hair? Nope. It's genes.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm talking about. When you're making money for them, they'll protect you. I'm gonna tell on myself again. I was notorious for carrying firearms. I was on Rodeo Drive. I was doing a part in an album that Bob Hope had assembled people like Phyllis Diller and Johnny Carson and Don Rickles, a whole bunch of stars on this comedy album. And Bob Hope was notoriously cheap. But I said, okay, I'll do the album because, Sammy was on it, a lot of people. And so I had to go down on Rodeo in Beverly Hills at noon to pick up something. And this guy ran the red light, and there were women with baby carriages crossing the street. And he swerved and swerved and swerved. And the light caught him, and I ran up on him. And he went under the car. Now, this is noon on Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills.
You gonna shoot him?
Listen, you can't do that anymore. I went back to the studio, finished the album. I came home. My wife said, Sergeant Sawicki from BHPD called, and he wants to know if you want to come down there or if you want him to come up to the house. I said, tell him to come up to the house. So he came up. He said, Demond, come on, man. He said, you're not Wyatt Earp, and this is not Dodge City. He said, you had about 100 witnesses that saw what this jackass did. Let us take care of that, buddy. Let us take care of it. Okay. Oh, we did. Did you pay for those policeman ball tickets yet? I said, no, I'm gonna take care of it. I said, all right, buddy. Now remember, now let us do that. You're not Wyatt Earp, and this is not Dodge City. But everybody saw what happened. Let Joe Neckbone do that.
Mm.
I would have just been getting out of jail last Thursday. Said, you got it now?
Understood.
And I wasn't doing anything to push the envelope. You know, I knew Richard. Richard was a friend.
Right.
We weren't close, but I knew Richard. I told you the Richard Pryor story, didn't I?
Nah, which one is this?
I was in Beverly Hills one day, and it was during the time when ivory and gold jewelry was out. And Richard had on a knit cap with the balls hanging down, and he was in an old Mercedes. And I saw him across the street, and I said, Richard. And he said, come on over here, young nigga, hang out. So I go over to him, and he said, I see your black ass on television acting mannish. I see you. I said, I'm not acting. That's who I am, Pryor. So he said, come on, follow me. We went to the dope house. He bought $10,000 worth of uncut cocaine. I took a couple of hits on that, and I was crazy till 11 o'clock at night. I don't know how Richard was able to do that. That stuff would stop your heart. I said, Richard, why don't you cut this with something, man? Vitamin E, baby laxative, something. No. It like to ate the inside of my nose out. And I wasn't a cocaine guy. I mean, I'd take a bump every now and then. But I used to smoke the weed.
What did cocaine give you? Kind of gave you like a pep in your step for the day?
I just told you it made me nervous till 10 o'clock at night. I saw Richard at noon.
I know, but I'm asking. You said you did it every now and then.
I didn't do that.
You didn't do it to get nervous.
I got wired. Don't try to act like a choir boy on me. I'll flip that cap off your head. Come here. Come here.
So real quick, you mentioned Richard Pryor, right? You mentioned cocaine. Over my shoulder right here, you got Pam Grier. Have you heard that story?
Didn't know it.
Have you heard that story?
No.
That he's allegedly put cocaine in her. Is that? I'm just saying, how crazy did it get when I hear that story?
I never knew anybody that did that. I knew dudes used to put it on their breasts and on their stomach. But I never knew anybody that put it. I mean, I'm not saying Richard. I loved Richard when he was Richard, but when Richard would go off on his Richard things, I didn't deal with him. But you remember, he used to come on the set. He wrote a couple of episodes.
I was gonna say, in the way that it got there, I don't think he like deliberately put it in there. I believe it was on his private part.
I don't care. Any woman that allows anybody to do anything to her, that's on them. There's accountability on their part. Did he hold her down? Did he put a gun to her head and do that? Did they report that, or did she do that?
I'll have to dive deeper and research that. But I did want to throw this out there. I know we just for time purposes, I got one more question, but I do want to ask you about this O.J. Simpson thing. Any response or reaction to that? He passed away. I saw Caitlyn Jenner put out a tweet. Caitlyn Jenner put out a tweet, said, good riddance.
Scripture says, as a tree falls, so shall it lie. He's in the spirit world now. It doesn't matter with these people going back and forth that he was guilty and he wasn't guilty. That doesn't matter. That man, rest in peace, brother. He's in the spirit world. I met OJ once. He came up to me at the filling station. I was living in Bel Air behind the gates. Magic Johnson, Jerry West was up there. And there was a filling station right on the corner. And there was a French restaurant behind the filling station, a boutique restaurant that a lot of people go to. It was 5-star. And I saw the white Rolls Royce out there, the Juice 32, and I said, "Oh dang, let me fill up this car before I get." Because I used to belong to a club when we was out there doing stuff called Orlando Orsini's, and I knew the boss. Travolta used to eat in an Italian restaurant, and they had a big window in the boss's office that looked down on the dance floor. And when OJ would come in with his entourage, I would stay up there. But I met OJ, he came waddling over to me and he said, hey, man. I said, hey, Juice 32, what up with you, boy? He said, oh, I'm good. He said, yeah, you live back there, huh? I said, yeah. You play tennis? Yeah, I play. Yeah. I said, I got a tennis court. He said, I got one too. I said, okay, then let's get together and play one time. All right, man, this guy's hands. His hands look like a first. You play baseball when you were a kid?
I like for a small amount of time.
You know what a first baseman's glove looks like?
It's huge.
That's what his hand looked like. He shook my hand and it was all the way up past my wrist. I said, this brother, and he was not that much taller than me, maybe a half an inch. And I thought, but he was thick.
Yo, they go.
OJ was solid. He was like a.
That's gonna be a crazy.
As he was coming toward
Gonna
me,
be
I
a
said,
crazy headache.
how can this little dude be running through the line like that when he played on Buffalo? And when he got up on me, I said, dang, this nigga is thick.
You ever heard the statement, pause or no Diddy?
I'm not gonna go there with you, young blood. I ain't going there with you.
I'll be like, this
Next
brother.
question. I ain't going there. I'm not going there with you. I did see a picture of him at a talk show sitting on a bench next to Mike Tyson, and he kept grabbing Mike's thigh, and Mike kept moving his hand, and finally Mike turned all the way around.
I'm just over here thinking about internet. If they get a hold
Get a hold of what?
that clip, you saying this brother was thick, like
It's a
He
young.
was thick. OJ, anybody that knew
They're
OJ
not-
knew that. I didn't say fat. I said thick.
But
I wondered
still.
why, as he kept getting closer to me, I said, this dude is my height. And then he got up on me and he was thick. He was like a wall. It hands like a first baseman's glove. Anybody knew Juice knew that.
I'm just saying when you see a woman, right, that's curvy, that's got an ass on her, typically we say she's thick. So to hear you describe OJ as thick is hilarious to me and probably a couple other people because you're not understanding the context of that when you say it, but it's funny.
I do, but I don't care about that. I'm not from your era. You can call it whatever you want to. Look up thick in the dictionary. You got your computer there? Look that up. Smart Alec. THICK, if you can't spell it with your ignorant butt.
And you kept doubling down on it, which is hilarious.
Look it up. What does it say? Read it.
I know what thick means. Look, 1 second.
Thick.
Read it. For the people in the back.
It says, hold on, made up of a large number of things or people close together. The busiest, I don't think it's giving you I know what thick means. In or deep, dense, or heavy mass. That's what you're trying to get at?
Yeah. Dense and heavy mass. That's what he was.
I know that, but it's just funny. I never saw myself call a man thick. That's all.
Well, because you got that little boy nonsense. Oh, she's thick. That ain't thick. That's a woman with a fat butt and a cinch waist and a waist trainer. Get out of here. Get out of here with that stuff. You're not going to drag me into this nonsense. He, them, she, they, why, you.
And we're just two different worlds coming together.
I know what thick means. If your mother was stirring something, she would say what? It's too thick. I got to pour some liquid in here. It's too thick. That's what he was. He was dense.
But you also say, damn, she's thicker than a bowl of oatmeal, thicker than a spoon of peanut butter.
He was dense. I did not understand how a person at my height, I mean, I was fast. I could run a 4.4, sometimes a 4.3 if depending on if I didn't go out the night before. But as he got closer, I said, this guy's my height. He was maybe that much taller than me. But when he got up on me, I said, dang, this brother's dense. And then he shook my hand, and his hand was like not a catcher's mitt, a first baseman's glove. Because they got to stretch and do like that. And he would go up and grab a football, and he had rickets as a child. That's why his legs were skinny. I saw him on Buffalo run, and I was blown away.
In terms of his legacy, did you have any other thoughts when he did go through the trial? Did you have any feelings going into that whole situation?
No, I didn't have nothing to do with it. Like I said, I didn't swim in anybody's pond in those days. I was an observer. I'd walk by and look at this and look at that and look at that and look at this and look at that. And then I'd follow the money and I'd follow the steps and I'd put it together for myself. This generation doesn't think. They just follow what everybody is doing and saying.
Yeah.
If you notice how they'll be saying something that's a catchphrase now, and next year, if you say it, you'll be outdated. Like,
right.
I'm living my best life.
Yeah,
I don't care about If you say that now, they say, get your old antique butt out of here.
Or that's lit.
Huh?
That's lit. That's probably gonna phase out in another couple years.
It's seasonal. And I don't involve myself. You know, what does scripture say? When I was a child, I thought as a child. But
Okay.
when I became a man, I put childish things away. So I'm not going to play in the sandbox with you, boy.
Well, let me ask you something. You've been in the game, and you just said now you used to move like really kind of seems like under the radar, or at least in your own space. Now, did it ever get dangerous for you? Like, what was the worst thing that happened to you just being around Sanford and Son and the times coming up?
Well, I had just purchased my first house, which sold a couple of 3 years ago for, I think, 18 million. And I loved the house because it looked like, when I first saw it, it looked like Ozzie and Harriet. I know you don't know who that is. Father Knows Best. It looked like all of the white television series that was on the air about families, and a house with the columns. And it looked like New England, even though it was two stones throws from Century City. And I saw the real estate agent. I made the wrong turn coming from my agent's office, and I was up on a hill and I looked down at the house, and they had a for sale sign on. I saw a red Ferrari and a little white Mercedes parked in front of it. And so I waited for like 2 hours, and the guy came running out and he shot away in the red Ferrari. And then the blonde girl came out and got in her little convertible Mercedes, and I was starting to walk down the hill. I said, "Excuse me, I wanna, I want to buy that house." She said, "You ain't seen it." I said, I seen it. I want to buy it." So anyway, I did, and it was my first week in the house. I'd had new carpet put in and an alarm system. And my agent, I came home on a Friday, and the skies were clear, the birds were chirping, and it was a wonderful time for me. Now, what I know about that wonderful times from growing up in Harlem and from being in a war, that whenever good things are happening, the adversarial forces are lining up right behind it. So I was reluctant. I would never allow myself to be happy, 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 like slap happy, happy. I just knew that there's a possibility of something coming, and it came. Friday afternoon, I got home early from the studio, and about 3:30, my manager, Tom Corman, agent, called me and he says, "Do you know who Mickey Cohen is?"
Mm.
And I said, "Yeah, I know Mickey Cohen, Lucky Luciano, Bugsy, Benny Siegel, and yeah, I know."
Okay.
"Why?" He said, "Well, because uh, Maya Lansky, Lucky Luciano, Benjamin Siegel, Benny Siegel, Bugsy Siegel, who is responsible for there being a Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah.
He got dusted in his home, sitting on a sofa in Beverly Hills." I said, "Yes, that Mickey Cohen, who was the boss of the underworld
Okay.
back in the 40s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. I know who he is. Why?" He said, "You have to do, he wants you to join him at his suite at the Universal Studios Hotel on tomorrow by noon. He likes promptness." I said, "I don't want to do no meeting with Mickey Cohen." He said, "It's not a request."
Mm.
So now my whole new house and everything just started like a sand castle that started crumbling.
Mm.
And so I got on the phone and I called one of the power people that was behind me, and I told them about it. And they said, go listen to what he has to say." So being a person that's prompt, because I was military and my dad trained me that way, my dad would have me meet him someplace. He'd wait 2 minutes. If I wasn't there, he was gone. And when he back at home, he never mentioned it, wouldn't talk about it. So I learned at an early age about promptness. Time is money. It still is for me. So I get there, and at the elevator, it was an elevator that went up to certain apartments. There was two rather large individuals standing there, and I noticed that there was a bulge in their jacket. So we was all bulging that morning.
Mm.
I wasn't about to go over there. Red had just given me a ivory, not ivory. It was a bone handle blue steel 38 revolver. And he said, "Hey, nigga, we famous now. You need to keep this with you because these niggas out here. I know you're alone. You're the lone wolf. You don't like traveling with no people. I got bodyguards, but here, take this and keep it on you. If something happen, I get your black ass out of jail. Don't even worry about it." So we're all strapped, and I go up, and they in front of the door, and they open the door. They said, "Mr. Cohen's waiting for you." So now I'm, reeling from all these stories I know about Mickey Cohen. I knew that he went to Alcatraz on income tax evasion. That's the only thing that could get him on. I knew he extorted money from celebrities in Hollywood and studio chiefs because he had something on him. I know he betted some of the most beautiful women in Hollywood. I knew he was the muscle for Ben Siegel as if he needed it, and Lucky Luciano and I knew all of those things. All those things was floating around in my head. I knew that they transferred him out of Alcatraz, where Bumpy Johnson was, and sent him to a Georgia prison where they beat him dang near to death, and he was partially paralyzed. So all those things are swimming in my head, and I'm thinking, what does this man want with me? So I walk in there, and honestly, I had been around at that time. I had been around death. I had seen a lot of things that took me a long time to not see. But I never felt evil coming from an individual like I felt coming from him. It was palpable. I mean, and he was sitting on the end of a canopied bed with a walker in front of him. And he looked at me and he said, "I like your hair." What did this nigga just say? Was he gonna scout me in here? What? We're gonna be some shooting niggas up in here because I ain't going down alone. I bet you that. What? You like my hair? Thank you. He said, "Okay, here's the deal. I represent a black hair product. I want you to be the spokesman. 80-20 cut. I get 80, you get 20. The meeting's over. When I need you, I'll call you."
Yeah.
What? He died in 76. This was circa 73 going into 74. This was before I was married.
Okay.
And that's when the other people started calling me. They'd call me up and they'd say, from some of the families in New York, one of our guys is coming in on the red eye, get out there to the airport and pick him up. And that's how I got tied up in that whole thing. And then there was my friend and manager back in the 80s, Roy Radin, who was killed over the Cotton Club film. And they found him in the Los Angeles forest a month later.
Did you ever feel like did you ever feel like your life was in danger?
Always. See, here's the thing. And this is what people your age don't understand. I was in the game and I knew the rules. So what I was doing was a calculated risk. And that's why I had to fly under the radar. I did not let anybody know what I was doing. My wife did not know. When Roy was dusted and dumped, my kids would come home and say, "Daddy, our friends at school said your daddy's a murderer." They would say, "My daddy ain't no murderer." So, I knew the risk. And I look at these young people, these kids, and I look at these parents that want to live vicariously through their kids, and they give them to these predators. And these kids are so screwed up, they're screwed up for life. I'm not going to mention any names. It's not necessary. It's all over the media right now.
Well, there's a documentary, Quiet on Set.
So, but if they're out here playing a game, John, that they don't know the rules to.
Let me ask you
And
this.
then they cry after they get shark bit.
Well, the
Are
theme
you
of it,
understanding what I'm saying to you?
I do, because I was going to bring this up because you've been saying the whole time that the game doesn't change, only the players. So that's what I'm walking away with. And I remember, you had the Quiet on Set film that just dropped that's talking about sexual assault within the kid actors. What was going on with Shirley Temple? Was that too much before your day? Because she had an incident.
because she had,
No, I know that story.
yeah,
If you look at Shirley Temple and her little ads and her little movies, Her dress came down to the top of her knees in the front, and in the back, when she'd been over, you saw her panties. She said when she was the representative that Angelina Jolie did, she said she didn't see anything wrong with adults having sex with children because they started having sex with her when she was a kid. She talked about going into either Louis B. Mayer's office or somebody, and he had his Johnson out.
Yeah.
She said her mother slept with the guy that she went to see.
Yeah, allegedly she laughed at the guy. I heard that story. She laughed at the guy when he pulled his pants down, and she didn't really trip about it, is what I've heard too. So this is something that
Oh, but think about what I said, the way they presented her.
Yeah.
So this whole thing with pedophilia ain't new. You think that's new? That's why I say these kids today, your generation, you're in a game that you don't know the rules to. That's why you get messed up, and then you cry on, look what they did to me. I didn't get the money I needed to get. You should have got the money up front. And if you didn't want to do it for that amount of money, walk the hell away from it.
how does a kid, let me ask you, how does a kid avoid a situation like that?
A kid doesn't avoid it. I said the parents want to live vicariously through the children. I mean, and again, they want to live through the children, and they give them to predators, and it screws them up for life. Now I know we're gonna get put. Well, Damon, you did too graphic, and you. I told you my objective, if there is one, obviously there's not money here. See, because you can't pay me. My objective is to educate and equip. If you're equipped, when I was in the Boy Scouts, I had to have all of the equipment that I needed to sleep in 20-degree weather. I had a yucca backpack. I worked for the Boy Scout training post when I was in high school. I had a yucca backpack. I had a sleeping bag. I had a little thin mattress. I had a poncho when it rained. I had a shovel so I could dig a trench around my tent. I had what do you call it? Food that you only had to add water to, and you had to start a fire with a Flintstone. I had all of the things that I needed to camp out. That's being equipped. You couldn't go out into the woods for the weekend in 20-degree weather and not have everything that you needed to survive out there. Couldn't do that. And these kids are out here in Hollywood for whatever reason, and they don't know the rules to the game. Obviously, they don't, because they're always losing. They're always coming in on the losing end. They do stupid stuff to themselves. I ain't talking about the people that sell their souls. I ain't got nothing to do with that. They got to do what the puppet masters say they have to do. And they're all men, by the way, not women.
Why you say it like that?
Because the puppet masters are the patriarchal hierarchy. Everybody want that smoke? I'll take all of that smoke because I know what I'm talking about. You can't be in. If you go to Vegas and you sit down there at a poker table with a bunch of sharks playing poker, and you don't know the rules to poker, you think you're going to come away with some money?
Right.
Right? Yes or no?
It's meant for you to lose anyway. Is that part of the game too?
Oh, God. Why do you always come with the de facto part? You always come with the negative part. You're negative Nelly. I told you what truth is. If you don't know the rules,
I'm trying to double down on the information. Because the thing is, our people a lot of times they're gonna see the flash, they're gonna see the money, and they're gonna run to the place that they think they can get the flash and the money. And you're laying out and saying,
go swimming in a coastal water that has shark sighting. You can do that. Go do that. You might come away unscathed, but you might not.
are you in conclusion, you came away unscathed, or you got bit a couple times and was able to bandage yourself up? How do you look at your career?
I'm not going to, I shared that with you in the first video, so go back and look at it. I'm not going to, my mother used to say, I ain't going to chew my cabbage twice. I told you I always had something else to go to. Told you about Vegas when they wouldn't pay me. I'll say it again because obviously you're a little slow today. Maybe you didn't sleep well last night. And all your friends, you say, he's so mean to him. I don't care. Listen, I ain't mean to you. I'm showing you. They put the contract in front of me for the new coming season. They said, you've been, you know, we're going to do another season.
Mhm.
I looked at the contract. I said, I'm not doing it for that. I wrote the figure out. This is what I'll do it for. We can't pay that. Okay, fine. I know what your budget is. I know the president of NBC. I know how much you're getting. You don't want to pay me? I'm out. And I told you I was dealing with heavy hitters, Jerry Parencio, Alan Horn. These guys ran major studios and owned Telemundo. They bought the Carlotta Kirkby estate, $180 million. These were the big boys. He went to Jack Kent Cooke, who owned the Felt Forum and got money to promote the first Ali Frazier fight at Madison Square Garden. He's the one that put the closed circuit TV in there for the fight. I told you this in the first podcast.
You did. I remember.
You always got to have an option. I couldn't go in there and say, I ain't doing this no more and just sit at home. When everything is going out and nothing's coming in. You're in the game and don't know the rules.
I think
When I went in, I knew they weren't going to pay me. I knew that going in. I called my agent. I said, hey, I called Nikki, my manager. Book me in Vegas. I'm ready to do it now. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to tap dance anymore. I didn't want to stand on the stage and tell jokes. I had Pat McCormick, who wrote all of my material for Vegas. He was that 6'7" guy that was on Sanford and Son on the airplane, and he wrote for Johnny Carson for The Tonight Show.
Right.
I told somebody that they said, oh, Paul Lynde was the funniest guy. I said, Paul Lynde's jokes, his answers to what Peter Marshall said was written by Jay Reddick, the producer of Hollywood. Well, prove it. I said, I'm on the book of the stars of the first season of Hollywood Squares. Burt Reynolds, get the book. You see me on there. That's how I know. Jay Reddick wrote the jokes for Paul Lynde, the retorts, rather. He was a very vicious man when he was in his homosexual mode. And I understand he was married. But he got out of line with me a couple of times, and the producer slapped him in the head and said, nah, go and apologize, which he did.
He got disrespectful out of line, or like he did some, because you said gay stuff, so I don't know if he
was disrespectful to me. I just said that.
I'm saying he didn't try nothing weird with you, right?
I just told you, I'm not a person who holds things in abeyance. I'm telling you what happened. He got out of line with me. You know who Glenn Ford is? You probably don't. Classic actor, superstar from the 30s. And did you see Gilda with Rita Hayworth?
What year was this?
Never mind. Google it.
Okay.
Glenn Ford gave me a compliment, and he said something nasty to Glenn and then said something nasty to me. And I went to the producer and I said, hey, this guy, what? And he said, Demond, it'll never happen again, and he'll apologize. And he did. I told you before, was nobody going to touch me? Do you understand? Nobody was going to touch me. It was known at NBC, CBS, ABC, The Street, wherever, this nigga is strapped. And he's connected. So he's going to come and squeeze my cheeks. Oh, why'd you do that? Don't give me this Terry Crews nonsense. How are you going to not think he's that way when he did movies playing that? Ooh, Tupac. Oh, ooh. And then wanting them Wayans brothers who were men. Joey Brown, who was the big mouth, they call him, and Martha Ray. Joey Brown was in Some Like It Hot with Marilyn Monroe, Tony Curtis, and Jack Lemmon. And one of the last scenes when Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon were in drag, dressed like women to get in this girl band. If you've never seen Some Like It Hot, you need to watch it. Marilyn Monroe, she did her thing. And they were in a rowboat, and his name was Osgood. And he was rowing Jack Lemmon out into the water. He had his flat straw, and he was a millionaire going to his yacht. And Jack Lemmon snatched his wig off and said, Osgood, he said, Osgood, I can't be with you. And he said, why? And he snatched his wig off, because I'm a man. And Joey Brown said, nobody's perfect. And kept rowing. Go watch it. Something like it hot.
You kind of, in a conclusion, because we've been rocking for a second now. You just opened up a door in a conversation about that on two fronts. Yeah, because you get a lot of black actors at times when they come up, they get labeled the gay thing, as well as Shannon Sharp. That happened to him. He got labeled gay.
Is that just
You're
part of?
stuck on that gay thing, aren't you? You don't have any. Are you married?
I have a woman though. If you're trying to allude to something,
Okay, I mean you're not
Don't
on the
do that.
fence about your.
don't do that. Please don't do that. I've already had. Now the funny thing is, I've had.
On
Don't
the
do that.
fence about your.
Listen, I've had my own. There's been so as I rose, I got the gay rumor on me too. So I understand it from a lens of that. Like, okay, that just comes with the territory. But I want to know, were people getting gay rumors back in your day?
When people did what?
Were they getting gay rumors? Like Shannon Sharp got a gay rumor on him. What is your reaction to that?
Allegedly, Richard
Yeah.
Pryor confessed having sex with men.
Well, he talked about it. Yeah.
Quincy Jones, same thing. They talked about Will Smith. I don't know any of those people. I don't swim in that. I've known Quincy since '70. When I first came to California, I went to a party at his house when he was married to Ula, and Jane Fonda and Donald Sutherland and Ben Vereen were all anti-war doing a play in Quincy's house, big bands and food and everything. And I walked around the perimeter of that party because I'd just come back from Vietnam. So I knew the Daffodils were in the Broadway theater. I knew Daffodils. You know, they'd look at you and they can tell if you are a daffodil, a dandelion, a fruit cup. If you don't put out that vibe, they're not going to bother you. I did a gay play, Boys in the Band. All they ever did was knock on my door when we was on the road to say, I know you're not going to eat properly, but we brought you this. And they would cook their butts off. And we had no problem, not a problem at all. I even went to a couple of their clubs in Philadelphia. You could smell poppers in the air, and they dancing, and the music was happening. But ain't nobody ever approached me. They know. They said, "Hey, Lila Garrett."
But what about a role though, like a gay role? Is that their way of kind of seeing where you at with it?
The executive producer of Baby I'm Back, Lila Garrett, brought the wardrobe guy to the set. And they had a pink sweater and a white shirt with pink lines in it and a V-neck sweater. And I said, Lila, come on, really? I can't. This is so gay. She said, Damon, if you had on pumps and a silk gown, nobody would think you was gay. Get out of here.
So have you turned down gay roles because that was like the industry? I'm sure they approached you with it.
They didn't have, you're looking at the industry from your view now. Red said to me, allegedly, I wasn't there. He was in Sneaky Pete's, where all the celebrities, big names on NBC, went after the shows were over. And he said Flip was in there. And Flip got drunk and he was screaming, I'm gay and I can't tell nobody. And Fox said, I said, you just did. So there's nothing new. You act like this is brand new. Oh, fake. That's what I meant.
I was laughing like that though. That's my. Is that my impression?
Oh, York.
Mine is a little bit more job.
Get your goofy ass out of here, boy. My grandmother said, boy, if you.
It made me. It definitely tickled me to hear you say it because you doubled down.
I'm sure it did.
It will.
Yeah, there you go.
This has been it was great catching up. I definitely think that, hopefully people enjoyed the conversation. I definitely think you always place your wisdom and nuggets in there. And I'm walking away with just understanding that the game ain't new. We need to study the game and apply it.